But thank you for coming out to our concert. This is called Philpalooza 2 or Squared. If you came to a concert here a couple of years ago, there was a similar concert, and the idea is it's a big musical party. And since this is the final concert of my 20th season here, I was going to say final. Nope. I'm here for a long time. Yeah. But since this is the final program of the season, is what I'm trying to say, I wanted a really big splash. And I think, well, I'll take votes when we're done. I think you'll be pleased. It's a very large group of people that are performing here. The first piece is going to be featuring our youth orchestra, the top-level youth orchestra. It's a little bit smaller in numbers for tonight because it's spring break, which we didn't figure that out in time. So about half of the kids are off vacationing. So, but the ones that are here are doing a wonderful job. They're going to be joining us for the Brahms Academic Festival Overture. This is the one piece that's not an American piece on the program, but it's really a wonderful piece that is a piece that Brahms wrote after he got an honorary doctorate. And I think he was just going to go, thank you, send a little letter. And they said, no, you should really write a piece. So he did, but he did it a little bit tongue-in-cheek in that he included a lot of the college drinking songs and such. And but it's a really lovely piece and fun. And not an easy piece, as the students and we have figured out. Second on the program, we have our composer here, Rick Robinson, who will be joining me in just a minute for his wonderful, wonderful piece. And then taking out the first half is this really unusual piece by John Alden Carpenter. He's a name you probably don't recognize. He's an American composer. This piece was written in 1924. He took the Charles Ives idea of making his living doing something else. I think he worked for his father's shipping business, but then he composed a lot of music. He has two pieces that are pretty well known, this being one of them, called Skyscrapers. The other piece is called Sea. Hello? Okay. Yes? No? All right. Try to keep it right here. Sea Drift is a very impressionistic piece. This piece is not. This is if you could throw everything and sink in to a city montage, 1920s jazz age, this would be it. We bring in two pianos, celesta, whole bunch of percussion. Really, really cool piece. Very challenging for the orchestra, and that will finish off the first half. Coming out after intermission, we have a soloist that we've had here a number of times, and he grew up right here. We first met him when he was our youth artist competition winner. Zachary Shemon is now a professor of saxophone at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. He tours internationally with the Prism saxophone quartet, and he's a phenomenal player, and he's played with us a number of times. He's coming back to play a piece we've done before also by John Williams. Did anybody see the movie Catch Me If You Can? Yeah, so this is the music from that. Features solo saxophone and kind of a jazz combo. We bring up the vibraphone, and our bass player becomes a jazz bass player, and they have a little trio right here in front. And it's also jazzy, but set in the 1960s, so it's this kind of cool jazz thing that's going on there, and it's wonderful. John Williams, it's very hard to not like John Williams. Then we bring our friends from the Plymouth Community Band to join us. Now that's where we get really, really, really big. And we're going to be doing two American pieces. One is the Candide Overture by Leonard Bernstein, very well-known, very zippy piece. And we are combining orchestral arrangements and band arrangements. And then we're going to take it on out with John Williams' Raiders March from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we will hopefully bring down the house, and you will have a good entertainment evening, and then you can run home to watch basketball if people are going to do that. But you don't want to miss those last couple pieces. The game will still be on, I think. But I want to introduce Rick Robinson. Dad, come on up. He is a phenomenal composer and a bass player. He was he was, yeah, get a mic there, and he was. I was thinking if we sit, you can't see us. You could see him, but maybe not me. But how you performed, were a member of the Detroit Symphony for what, 20 years, something like that?
22 years. Yeah,
22 years. And then he decided to do something else, and he's done this phenomenal thing of really taking music out to the people in every way, shape, or form. And was that when you started composing too? I don't know. Or did you do that before?
Well, it was after about 4 years of arranging, transcribing famous symphonic music for cut time players, the larger ensemble that I started within DSO, that I learned that I could compose something. And it was a fantastic story. It was a waking dream, and I heard this music. I rushed downstairs, I got it in the finale, and over the course of a divorce, I wrote this great piece. Divorce will do that for you. And DSO premiered it in 2006, and it was only then that I wondered if I could be a more, intentional composer, with the idea of starting a second ensemble that would be a lower budget, be able to play in smaller rooms than cut time players, and that led to eventually being able to bring it into bars and clubs.
But you perform yourself on bass.
That's
throughout all of these,
oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Save the conductor fee
right.
by leading myself, and that's been doing head bobbing like this, but it works. I mean, classical symphonic music as chamber music is kind of an idea I got from the Cleveland Orchestra anyway, because George Zell would tell the musicians to listen to each other, to know each other's parts, and the music was more cohesive that way.
Okay. Well, this piece this is a world premiere for this particular version of the piece, but tell us about the piece and how it started.
Okay. Well, I've always been interested in how do we bring more people into this fantastic kind of music. It's not a song, it doesn't have lyrics, it doesn't necessarily have a steady beat going to it. But what this music does, or rather the technique does, is weave different kinds of music together. And folks like Samuel Barber and Aaron Copland and Virgil Thompson use the folk music, American folk music, and weave it into a story, into an adventure, in the ways that classical music can. And even before them, Brahms, Mozart, and Beethoven did the same with the folk music of their time. So, speaking of drinking songs, I've pretty much done some of that with a little bit of hip-hop beat and funk and gospel into this piece that you're going to hear today. And I've been able to perform it with my group's Cut Time Symphonica in over 200 times. Not only bars, clubs, homes, street festivals, you name it, and people just love it. And it's got a somewhat steady beat to it at times. But the point is to show how this kind of adventure, even without lyrics, can have potentially more meaning than music with lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's called Highland Park, City of Trees, and a lot of people who have only been around the area in the last few years have pointed out that Highland Park does not have trees anymore, and maybe you can tell them exactly what is going on in this piece.
Sure. So when my family moved to Highland Park when I was 2, and it was growing up there for the next 5 or 6 years or so, I had these beautiful tall Dutch elm trees. And they would tower over our houses, and the city would trim them so it looked like a cathedral when you look down a residential street. It was very beautiful. In fact, they were planted back in the 20s, I think, when Henry Ford built the Model T plant there. Anyway, Dutch elm disease took over a lot of Midwest elm forests, and including Highland Park, and the city had to start tearing them down for fear that they would start to fall on houses. And within 5 years, Highland Park just looked desolate without these trees. And of course, at that same time, you have the changeover after the riots of 67, 68, of white flight, and the education system that was left there was really good, but it was quickly changing. Attitudes towards mainstream education in my black community is not quite as open as it would need to be. But a good student, it changed such that if you're a good student in my day, sometimes you became a target of underachievers and bullies. who didn't want you to succeed. So it was a terrible.
So this is a kind of an
Yeah.
biographical
Yeah.
journey of in your youth, would you say?
Yeah, it really is. I got punched a few times, and so there's some punching in the music. But in the end, it's bittersweet that no matter how much you get punched, you still know what you know, and you love learning. If you love learning, no one can stop you.
So maybe you can take them through the sequences of the piece.
Okay, so it opens with this kind of flashback to the trees of Highland Park, and the wind is blowing these tall trees, kind of like they're dancing a little bit, and then we flash forward to after the trees have been taken down and the city has changed over, and the student, she's on her way to school, looking forward to it, but she dreads the walk to school because she knows the bullies are going to be out and they're going to harass her a little bit. And they do, and she gets to the school, and the principal and the teachers, they comfort her and say, it didn't used to be this way, just stick to your guns, kid. And she does, and she has a great day, fantastic day, everything's looking up, but eventually she's got to go home, and she runs into the same bullies or some different bullies, and they get a little rougher with her, but, and they tear her books up, but she still knows that she loves to read, so she's going to get beyond this.
It's really, and that all takes place in 10 minutes. It's really an amazing thing, but it's also kind of fun. I mean, you do bring in, funk, and in fact, we asked, you had the bass player do something specific.
Yeah, I had Andrew amplify a little bit. Andrew amplify quite a bit just to make sure that bass line is really solid and funky. And here he comes now, so. So it's a nice strong bass line because it's really nice hip hop bass line. In fact, there's two bass lines. So don ding don don ga digga digga don ding don, and against the cellos ba da beep ba da. It's all very funky. And the slow part is gospel-y. It's like a symphony within 9 minutes. So, and that's kind of what new audiences need, right? To see what that adventure is and how much variety can be included in one piece.
Now, the original version of this was for how many players?
6.
And we've got something like 55, I think, here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a broad
it's
expansion.
been quite it's a very, in a lot of ways, it's a different piece because it's a different sound. But I hope we're doing it justice. It's really a challenge to having heard the chamber version and then doing it at this big one. But you've got some great orchestrations of big sounds, and we hope you enjoy it. Do you have any questions for Rick? Anybody? Yeah.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Have you experimented with any exotic rhythms, like, for example, Dave Brubeck's The Unsquare Dance and Take Five and those kind of things?
No, I haven't. I really try to stick with conventional stuff, and my modern side is to use, kind of the urban pop and folk music that we are familiar with today. And I'm not really a jazzer, so I'm not going to be so familiar with that. But that's an interesting idea. In fact, I know Dave Brubeck. Oh, it was Bernstein who wrote the jazz dialogues for orchestra, and I think that's got some Brubeck in it. And Leonard Slacken was trying to turn me on to that, but haven't gotten around to it yet. Thank you for the suggestion.
Next piece, yeah. Any other questions? Well, you can talk to him at intermission because this is going to be the second piece on the program, and I think you may have some questions for him then. Please enjoy the concert.